Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Tam Psych Advice. I'm Tamara, and today we're going to talk about the ISTJ INTP relationship. And I think at a glance, you would think that this relationship could work very well, that it just seems like a natural, great combination. And I think people who are in this relationship may believe the same thing, but there are some areas that have to be considered. I want to start off with the ugly. A lot of times we start off with the good. I'm going to start with the ugly with this relationship. And this can go for work relationships and it could also go for romantic relationships. Why these two could clash. I mean, you're looking at them and you're thinking they are introverted thinking types and what could go wrong with that combination. But I think this combination, this relationship could really be tricky. And don't add to that narcissism, which I've written a book about narcissism, or there's some other dysfunction going on, and you're going to get a really horrible connection that could drive the two people absolutely insane. But let's say that you have an everyday average couple and they are as flawed as any other human being. The most common frustration for this couple would be due to their needs for order and closure, because ISTJs like predictability. They don't like sudden changes. They like routine. They don't like disruptions or for things to be disregarded. They want firm plans, and they can be inflexible or resistant when it comes to new ways of doing things, which is what INTPs tend to thrive on. INTPs, they get bored when there's too much routine going on. But they can also be very excited by new challenges, by surprises, by the unexpected. So INTPs can feel very stifled and irritated by an ISTJ's need for rules and to impose them. And ISTJs can feel very unnerved and just all out of whack by an INTP's need for unpredictability and for their disregard of structure. So they can both be very strong-willed. Their thinking preference, they're introverted. They can both be pretty stubborn and not realize that about themselves. So, sometimes they could hit a point where, if you disagree on something that is that fundamentally strong in your opinion, then you can come to a standstill and not know how to move forward or how to get out of that rut as a couple when you just have different preferences. So another area of conflict could be in decision making, because an ISTJ might make decisions quickly, based on, I have a need for closure, let's just get this done. Well, an INTP, they are very open to more information, more possibilities, more avenues and different ways of looking at things, doing things. And so they want to absorb as much information as possible before shutting things down or making a conclusion. And even at the last minute, they may switch things up and change things all around to their delight, but to the chagrin and the frustration of an ISTJ who's like, I don't play that. Before they know it, this combination could have a very toxic relationship that is deeply in trouble. Every relationship, you have to have consideration and respect for the other person and an understanding and an acceptance to a certain degree of how they think, how they move. But how is it possible to be yourself when your partner has many differences and ways of doing things than you? And that's something that has to be considered in no matter what Myers-Briggs combination. There has to be a level of acceptance and tolerance So that's the tricky thing. How do I get along with you when I don't want to do things in the same way that you do? And I want to be myself, but I have to consider your way of doing things. How am I myself in that sense? So you got to think about this when it comes to ISTJs and INTPs, is that, an INTP, they're not as into clocks, calendars, time limits, schedules like the ISTJ is. And so the ISTJ is going to want the INTP to be more accountable, and the INTP is going to want the ISTJ to stop trying to control them so much. So ISTJs, they like to plan, and most of them probably don't want to be late, or they don't want to be rushed. But the INTP, of course, for some of them, they are very punctual. So we can't totally put that in there. But there are going to be the ones that run behind schedule, since they can get lost in whatever they're doing. And so it's, INTP is going to be always pondering, switching directions at the last minute, or keeping the door open to new possibilities, which can be a perceiver trait in general, keeping that door slightly cracked so that you have an opportunity to change your mind. So another area is communication, where these two will have different perspectives. So ISTJs can be very linear, very literal, and they may think INTPs are too vague or unrealistic. INTPs can get bored with things that they've already discussed or that they've already considered, and they might think the ISTJ is way too methodical and too predictable. And so you got to think about this. ISTJs, a lot of times they like repeating the same story over and over and over again. It's quite satisfying and even delightful at times. So they need to be able to be clear on what their positions are and listen to each other with respect and not make assumptions about how each other feels. So they need to be able to explore and deepen their emotional connections. Neither of these are feeling types, so that could be difficult for them to go into more of a feeling state where they're talking about their emotions, because they could also fear being judged or being dismissed. So they have to really cultivate this to strengthen their relationship with each other. The saying that opposites attract, and sometimes the thing that is different about a couple is what attracts you, but that thing can also be the same thing that could be the detriment to your relationship. And they're not opposite on everything, but there are just some areas that could really cause some deep conflict with them. However, the great part about that is it gives both of them the opportunity to really stretch, to really grow. And if they could dive into that arena or have that attitude that I'm learning, growing, and stretching, it could be great for both of them, because the ISTJ learns how to be more spontaneous and more open and more open to possibilities and playing around with different ideas. And the INTP becomes more structured and more routine. And so then they both win. So if they can find an area where they can come together, it could really benefit both of them, and they could enjoy each other's differences. So how to respect your INTP partner. Try not to control them or their schedule or give them way too many rules or expectations. And also consider some of their ideas before you just throw them out as, oh, it's just another idea that doesn't make sense. Really try to consider some of their ideas and enjoy that. And how do you reach your ISTJ partner? Well, you want to respect their need for order and predictability. So you're going to try to give them advance notice before you just change plans. If there's already something in place that you are planning to do, then really try to respect that. And especially when it includes the ISTJ. And you might want to have a junk area. Not to say that INTPs are messy, because some of them are extremely neat and some ISTJs are extremely messy. I've done videos on that. But if one person is neat, then you might want to have like a little location where you keep your messy piles, or you have a box for your messy stuff to go. And it's just about compromise, okay? Let's talk about some plus sides, because if anybody has to be around anybody who is exactly like them, you might think that's your dream wish, but it would drive you nuts to have someone who is acting like the things that you want someone else to tolerate in you. And what I mean by that is, I wish to be around J's all the time, but when I'm around J's that intense, we all have to be structured. We all have to stick to a plan. And there's never that P flexibility. After a while, that starts to drive me crazy too. So just keep that in mind. But the positives is that they both are serious, quiet, independent people in general, and they will respect each other's need for alone time or privacy. So that's a huge plus. Both people can be pensive or reserved, and they need a little bit more think time before they speak because they're not extroverted, and they can both be very calm and objective, logical, and how they base their decisions. And they can give, remember to give constructive criticism, and that can really help them to really enjoy their relationships. So they are attracted to their differences, because there's something to be said about the INTP's sense of humor that's unique, and their originality and their intellectual curiosity that is attractive to the ISTJ. And they do like their flexibility and their ability to be spontaneous. And vice versa, INTJs can like or find something interesting about ISTJ's need for tradition and to have a real common sense approach to life. I mean, that can be very appealing to them. And so they do have some differences that could get them in trouble, but they also have some positives and some things that could really bring joy and life to the relationship. So definitely do not write this relationship off. Now you are aware of some things that you need to kind of keep in mind when you are on the road to developing a great relationship with them, so it doesn't catch you off guard and you can stay ahead of it instead of getting hit in the head by it. So definitely check out my books. I mentioned about narcissism. I did write a book about difficult people, not just Myers-Briggs related, but sometimes you're having problems not because the person's personality is different, but because they are narcissistic, and that is a difficult thing to tangle with. Also, since we're talking about love, I actually managed to write a book about love to help you in those areas where you're having difficulty, or how to go internally and figure out how to overcome some of those tough areas or to heal. I think you will enjoy both books. They're by Tamara Hunter Zyon, and you can get them both on Amazon, the ebook or the hard copy. So if you would like more videos on these two types, hit that like button. That's my signal that, okay, they want to see more videos on this type, and I'll be glad to do it for you. And definitely subscribe to my channel and share this video with the people that you love. Also, do you think it's better to be in a relationship with somebody who's different from you or more similar to you? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. Bye.